Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? It's August 26th, day 26 of RPG A Day 2022, and our question today is why does your character do what they do? And of course, the character I'm talking about is Leo Baxter of the Colonial Marines in our Alien by Free League game. And this is one of my favorite parts of role-playing games is this idea that we, um, within a framework, within an idea, we bring to the table or create together a group of characters that fit that idea, that agenda, that genre, whatever it happens to be, ones that won't push against it. Um, but despite the fact that all create characters that fit, they can all be individuals. They all have their own motivations and reasons for doing what they do, their own personalities, their own little quirks, their flaws, their skills, all that sort of stuff. And to see the character that you envision and then see the character that emerges as the game goes on is awesome. And to see the other characters that get brought to the table and emerge is awesome as well. But I'm going to talk about Leo Baxter. So, the idea I came up with, was altogether inspired by Aliens, by watching those other Colonial Marines and reading some other books and seeing some other movies regarding similar type characters. So this idea of this 40-year-old career Marine made sense to me. A guy that has been in the Corps for a long time, has seen quite a bit of stuff. It doesn't come up at all in play, unfortunately, but he is extensively tattooed, and there just wasn't a good way to say, hey, look at my tattoos. But he's got a bunch of tattoos that I envision being of his past wives, and then cover up tattoos and ships, places, significant events, places he's been, and what have you. There are things in the game that kind of push you in certain directions or make you come up with some things that gives you an idea of who the character might be. He does have a signature item, which is a worry rock from his father. And in the game, you can use that signature item mechanically to reduce stress. So I have this idea of this old worry rock that has been worn down during his 22 years in the Corps, as he sat there in foxholes or the equivalent thereof, when stressed out, kind of slowly getting himself back into the Zen zone. And we really haven't had a chance to really see that come up and play very much, but he's got that sort of thing where he can sort of calm himself down a little bit. But I looked at the setting of Alien itself, this idea that the corporations have really taken over everything, that there aren't a lot of places to make your own decisions, to define who you are. And the Marines was someplace that, this young man, when he was young, saw as a place that he could go to maybe do something, to maybe make a difference, to not just be another farmer or another colonist or another, body on overcrowded Earth or another overcrowded colony, that sort of thing. Because you look at the world that's presented in those movies, and it's extremely bleak. To put it mildly. So, and going in there, and we, had some scenes where, Baxter sort of monologues to Patch, one of the other Marines, the fact that he's never going to get out of the Marines. Where's he going to go after he retires? Is he going to be a farmer? Is he going to be something like that? He's had enough time in the Marines to realize that this is where he fits, that his experiences in the Marines have changed him, and that he's really not going to be able to go and integrate back into normal society and be very comfortable. And he's okay with this. It's not optimal. And you see this idea that he's had these ex-wives, which I originally just kind of threw in there flippantly, and then as play ensued, I just thought more and more about this guy that really just is able to form relationships with women and romantically, but not really able to sustain them, because of other loyalties, because of being driven. And he's somebody that I realized is very convinced that there are evil people out there, because he's seen evidence of this. Another thing that the game instructs you to do is to have or choose a personal agenda, and you can either choose one of the ones that's listed or make up another one. I made up another one because I thought it was more interesting. And the personal agenda I floated by Anthony, which he said, that's cool, was takes failure personally due to past negligence involving civilians and Marines. And I did kind of allude to that in terms of the video where, where has this character been? And, this idea that he's failed due to some negligence in his duties, and as a result, people died. And he doesn't want that happening. And he realizes he takes failure very, very personally. He took it personally before, but now, it's more important to him that they, complete a mission. They do what they're supposed to do. That they don't leave stones unturned, because that can come back and bite them in the rear end or somebody else. So he takes a responsibility very, very personally, and failure very, very personally. And this is something that I knew. I didn't use the words personal negligence or past negligence. And when Anthony sent back this approved version, the word negligence really kind of didn't sit well with me, which made me know right away, it's okay, this is good. This is already making me feel a little bit icky. Look, Jason, it's another long video. See, I read the comments. So, that's something that informed my play of Baxter quite a bit as things went on. Of course, we got into some situations where we could have just backed off. But Baxter, was more convinced that he needed to destroy a certain transmitter or, kill a certain person in order to make sure that things were, they were taking care of things. He, felt really, really uncomfortable with leaving LV-426 with all the alien eggs there. He really wanted to destroy them, even if it meant that they all died. Let's see, there's another thing in here that the game kind of pushed me in a certain direction. Yes. There's an event. A few things, actually. But there's an event that you choose as part of the Marines expansion. And you roll for it, actually. So I rolled for this event. And generally what the event gives you is it gives you an extra boring thing, whether it's a talent or an item or something like that. However, that's the boring part of it. So I rolled, and I rolled event 14 through 16. I rolled a 15, actually. During a colony virus outbreak, everyone ran out of ammo, and your squad retreated to the marshal's office where you fought off the infected colonists. You still have the 12-gauge shotgun you used that day. And, once again, I looked at that as a real formative event in who Leo Baxter was. This idea that, he's essentially in the Colonial Marines version of the zombie apocalypse, where he's, holed up in this office shooting civilians, people that he is sworn to protect, who have now become a danger to other civilians and, his Marines. And he's sitting there killing men, women, and children who are hopelessly infected, but still, they're people. That made it a little bit easier for me to spend some XP a little bit later on the Merciless talent, which allows me to shoot somebody in cold blood, an unarmed, helpless person, without having to make an empathy roll to see if I can do it or not. And, Baxter's one of those people, I didn't have that talent at the beginning, but that was the first thing I bought, I believe. This idea that, he will do what's necessary, even if it's really tough, even if it's really unpalatable or morally questionable, in order to achieve the greater good. This is one of the reasons that after Geek died, which he felt very bad about despite the fact that they were rivals, because once again, he felt like he failed a little bit. When he saw Patch, Craig's new character, take this poor insurgent who had unknowingly had a bomb strapped to him and throw him off the roof of this building. This guy is doomed to die anyway, but literally throws this guy off the roof to save his unit. Instantly, Baxter feels this incredible amount of affinity and respect towards this young whippersnapper, for having the guts to do that. And which is why he chose him as his new buddy, because this guy clearly, deserves respect, despite his, challenge of being, little young and a little bit naive and, a medic and all that kind of stuff, semi-pacifist. What Marine is that? So, that's another thing that helped inform why, he did what he did. Was that taking that Merciless talent and thinking about it beforehand, and just that whole event with a shotgun. I really those events can be really kind of cool to give you a little push in a certain direction. The other thing, and because there's many things I could talk about why Baxter does what he does, and I don't want the video to be too long, Jason. But let's see. The dice determine, in a way, a personality trait that Baxter has that I was not aware of. And what's that? Well, using the stress mechanic in the game and rolling the dice to see if you end up somewhere on the panic table, Baxter frequently ends up, and I forget exactly what the numerical result is, it's not really important, stressed enough to begin to cause stress to the people around him. And it felt very natural in the moment the first time that happened for him to start shouting and his, all these expletives, and being somebody that when they get really, really stressed in the heat of combat will start to, get loud, get boisterous, not in a way like, oh man, game over type of way, but just, more of a son of a bitch, just, that sort of thing. Angry and stressed and vocal. And this happened frequently, that, I would end up getting this sort of role. And so this sort of became part of Baxter's personality, that, under duress, when he starts to get just a little bit past keeping it together, he has this tendency to go off a little bit, which makes everybody else a little bit nervous, especially when you've got this guy with the big gun that can turn everybody into hamburger in a second, is starting to lose it just a little bit and starting to become a little bit unwound, or wound too tight, whatever it happens to be. So those are the big reasons why, Baxter does what he does. As time has gone on, he's identified, that not only Lim is somebody that's not, a person that does some horrible, horrible things, but also that Charles Tennant, the general that he shot, is somebody that's been complicit with doing things that, puts the people they're charged to protect at risk, or even sacrificing them for the benefit of the corporations, for the benefit, of maybe like, kickbacks to some of the top brass, or just dirty. So, Baxter is very anti-corruption, anti-evil. He does have this strong moral compass, despite the fact that he's willing to do things that most people wouldn't be willing to do because they're tough. They're things that are essentially immoral to a degree. And he's had to make this hard decision, because even though he's a career Marine, even though it was, it was hard for him to disobey Tennant when Tennant just kind of pulled rank on him, and it caused him quite a bit of stress. That's a big motivating factor for him. He knows that if people don't follow orders, people die. He's seen this happen enough. He knows there's a reason for command. He said this flat out to Kaminsky. I'm not going to disobey orders. I may argue with you, but I'm definitely going to do what you say, even though I think this is stupid. He finally has made this decision that, even though he's sacrificing his only chance at any kind of life, which is his career in the Marines, he would much rather, do what's right, objectively right in his mind, and take out Tennant, remove the cancer from the organization, and, put his own safety in jeopardy, which is essentially what his job is anyway. So that's what makes Leo Baxter tick. What makes your character tick?